Take a look at the following mathematical function. It's called the sine function, and it works like this. Sine x, or sine of x, is -1 if x is less than 0. And don't get this confused with the trig function sine. This is completely different. Sine of x is 0 if x is equal to 0, and sine of x is 1 if x is greater than 0. So how could we write this as a C# program? Well, the first thing we could do is write it as a series of if statements. So let's try that. First, we'll create a couple of variables, sine and number. Then we'll ask the user to enter a number, and we'll get that number from the console, as we usually do. Now, here's where we have our series of if statements. If number is less than 0, sine is equal to -1. If number is equal to 0, sine is assigned the value 0. And if number is greater than 0, then sine is assigned the value 1. The problem with this code is that, as I said in the last lesson, we really should not code this as a series of independent if statements, because each if will be evaluated regardless of what the value of number is. So even if number is less than 0 and we assign sine the value -1, we're still going to evaluate number equals 0 and number greater than 0. But what we can do is write it as a series of nested if statements. So let's see how that's going to work. We'll get rid of what we don't need there, and then we'll say else, and then we'll say if number is equal to 0, sine is equal to 0, else sine is equal to +1. Close that else, close that else. Now let's work through the logic before we test the program. I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's add one more line here. Let's write out the result. Console write sine of number sine. So now let's work through the logic. If the value of number is less than 0, assign the value -1 to sine, and that's all you have to do. If number is not less than 0, then we trigger the else part, and then we say, well, if it's equal to 0, then sine is assigned the value 0, and that's all we have to do, and we can stop. Otherwise, else, if number is not less than 0 and number is not equal to 0, well, then it must be greater than 0. We don't need another if test here. We can just go ahead and assign